Hi, I'm Laudadio from SHIFT314, and I'm going to sit down here with Rob Gaunt from Epic Agile to talk about your Agile transformation keys. So let's get started.
Sounds
Agile
great.
key number 1. Agile as an enabler. Agile is not a goal. And the key thing here is we discovered, as we talked to a lot of our clients, nobody wants Agile.
Yeah, absolutely. What we find is exactly the same thing. All of the clients that we're working with have never brought us in to say, I want you to implement Agile. They've always given us, I need faster speed to value. I need higher performance culture.
Yeah.
I need blah, blah, blah. They've
Happier
been
people.
told that Agile is the tool to make that happen. And probably as they're approaching more and more Agile consultants, they're hearing, yes, we can implement Agile. The problem is in that, what happens is when they get on the ground, they start implementing Agile as the goal instead of the drivers for the change.
Yeah, but what the problem is that the distraction with executives is that when you have organizational goals that are already in place, that could be product development, that could be marketplace penetration, that could be revenue, that could be profit. These things are real ones that actually allow the survival of the organization. And then Agile. They can't correlate the two. They can't figure out, well, where do I put my resources? And the thing that's the problem is that executives discover and realize that they're going to get remunerated on their ability to deliver on the organizational goals, not Agile.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get this on-off, stop-start, on-off, stop-start with executives who have constrained resources. And when Agile is more of a means or a way to actually get to the organizational goal, it all happens magically, right?
What we're obviously passionate about, though, and I think what we find in many of the transformations we undertake is that it can be done better. It can be done with a much more human perspective, and it does deliver real benefits. But it's not the goal.
No.
The goal is to deliver on faster value to market, or to deliver on higher quality work, or even just to deliver on better engagement with the teams around them, or to higher performance teams.
Yeah.
So in the end, Agile is a means, not a goal.
All right, let's go to key number 2. We encourage everyone to use an evolution program and to throw out their rollout plan. Because there's 2 problems with the rollout plan. The first one is the word rollout. The second one is the word plan.
Absolutely.
The rollout assumes that everybody can predict the kind of complex behavioral patterns of a large group. And I don't know about you, but I can't predict the behavior of my spouse. So for me to actually figure out how to predict a group of 600, 1,000, 10,000 people would be actually highly complex and probably a little bit arrogant on my behalf. The other thing too with the plan is that it starts to resist a lot of what Agile stands for. Like one of the values is embracing change. And when I hold a plan in place, it starts to bring out this old Agile traditional mindset of myself that I want to have deadlines and I want to have milestones, and I start checking, and I want people to lead by that plan and how are we going against plan. Instead, the challenge we say is drop the plan, drop the rollout, and instead adapt and learn, experiment.
Yeah. For us, we would look at lead through goal setting, lead through intent. I don't actually mind the idea of doing a plan up front about how you might begin your journey.
Yes.
But the moment that, and we all know this, right? The moment that the organization uses that plan as a stick to hit people with, to say you haven't met the goals, you haven't met the deadlines, you're not achieving the metrics we put in front of you, is the moment that we're already going wrong. So realistically, that needs to be adaptive. It's got to be iterative. It absolutely should set some sort of objective, and a lot of that is based on some sort of hypothesis we've all sat down and discussed and agreed upon. But the reality of the situation is whatever's happening right in front of us, and what we need to do is be able to conform to that and not be held by the constraints of the plan.
No, you're right. You know what the secret sauce here is? Leadership curiosity. Right? Figure out what does work. Right. Look at the feedback. Look at the ideas, and then actually incorporate that immediately into your plan.
Yeah. So I guess what we're really saying here is learning and adapting. That's what it's all about. So constantly evaluate where we're up to against our goal sets, and adapt.
Okay. All right. Agile key number 3. Iterate where the interest is. Don't mandate Agile. See, this happens all the time. We're working with organizations. They're mandated Agile, and it's not working out very well. What we're suggesting is that kind of instills a lot of resistance in an organization. Like, put up your hand if you've been through a large transformation of any kind, right? And the problem with that is that when you invoke this concept of mandating Agile, a lot of people start to form a lot of resistance and challenge of, well, what does this mean to me? And can I just not do my day that I did yesterday? What we found is that whenever you introduce the concepts of Agile to a group, there's always this portion that's really excited about it. And instead of trying to force the idea of Agile to everybody and get everybody on the bus, why don't you work the people that already want to be on the bus.
Yeah.
Because when you start to work with them and you start to increment and iterate and invite those to participate with the Agile space, and you experiment and adapt and learn to explore with them, when they start to increase their ability to be productive with speed or be a more adaptive, or they're even happier employees, it starts to evoke a lot of interest amongst those that decided to either sit back or even resist the kind of change. And the organization then starts to evolve very gradually, and I think with growth.
And it's interesting you mentioned the idea of mandating Agile. Actually, the reality of it is that we're mandating language and jargon. Because true Agile is not about any given process or any given methodology that you have to apply. It's actually, as we've talked about before, it's about the mindset and about being. So what people are excited about is a potential alternative reality for them, a new paradigm or a new journey that they're going on. They've got an open mindset already, and they're interested in learning something new and trying a different approach because they know the old approach is boring or it hasn't achieved the results they all desperately want to achieve.
Right.
So when we say mandating Agile, what we're actually doing is we're putting a lot of constraints in their way. At first they get excited, but over time they get really depressed about it, really, because they're just seeing that this isn't what the promised land was.
Yeah.
This isn't the silver bullet I thought it was going to be, and it's also it seems to be forced on me instead of allowing me to learn into it and adapt as we go. I guess summarizing that though, as you say, mandating Agile is not Agile.
Key number 4. So our recommendation after a lot of research and working with a lot of leaders around the globe is we found the pattern that works the most. And this isn't just with Agile. This is actually with any kind of change that goes on ongoing. And that is to actually help your employees improve daily work instead of forcing this large organizational change on top of them. Look, we're all humans. And if I try to change 50% of your life, I'd probably cause a lot of chaos. But if I instead asked you to change maybe 2% of your life, maybe once a week, what happens in 100 weeks?
Yeah.
You've changed your life radically,
Yeah.
right? But us as humans, we can change every week 2%. But what we're finding then is that if you work with an Agile interest and you want to bring this to your organization, the large organizational transformations cause a lot of fear and resistance, and it invokes frustration in your group. If you offer Agile as a means to an end, and actually introduce it in a way that it allows them to reduce frustration that might be in their day, to make their day a little bit easier and to improve daily work. It now is not just a problem that creates fear, it's now something that can eliminate fear or eliminate frustration.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of our customers have found the same thing. So it actually resonates not only with our customers, but with their executive. If we're just looking for a few quick wins here and there, just get some rubber on the road. In fact, the amount of times we're asking people to transform the entirety of their business without any proof point that actually this is going to work for them, that it's going to make a meaningful difference to their lives and to their customers. It is on us to say to them, hang on a minute, how about we just start with something that's relatively simple that we can take on and ask a few people just to bend a little, not necessarily to break. And so, iterative small wins for me is a better outcome than a whole bunch of break.
Yeah.
I guess if I was to summarize that, daily improvements will create a big shift over time. So go for the daily improvements.
Exactly. Let's do Agile key number 5. Include the Agile mindset, not just doing Agile. So this has a lot to do with what I always heard is be Agile, not just do Agile. But this is a very important message because even myself, when I started out using Agile and I had an organization of about 500 people, and online, we were supporting a bunch of children that were happy with an online game. And I tried to transform this organization to Agile. And what was I doing? Scrum. And it didn't work. I had people leaving me. I had dissension. I had anger. I had frustration. What I was missing as a leader was the being, the actual part of that. And what I discovered was that the Agile Manifesto told me how to be more than it told me how to do. And I ignored it at first because I read it, with this over that, this over that. What do? Over the shoulder, pick up Ken's book, right, about Scrum. This tells me exactly what to do.
Yeah, the recipe.
And I missed it, right?
Yeah.
So it's more, and I found it's more about me and my being.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, the manifesto says it all. It's really people over process. And when you looked over your shoulder and you found Scrum, you found the process. Realistically, all of our clients find the same thing. The ones that have really changed, the ones that have really benefited are the ones that have put their people first. Yeah. I guess first and foremost, they've enabled their people to be Agile. And that means that they've removed some of the constraints. If Scrum's not working for them, then what might work for them?
Right.
And they're open to a potential alternative.
Right.
It's not to say that Scrum doesn't have its place, and it's not to say that that we couldn't give that a try first if that's the first thing that makes sense given their environment and their appetite for the change, right? But at the end of the day, being Agile is about being human.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So you don't exclude though processy, and you don't exclude the Agile Manifesto does not say that there's no value in process.
No, it's just over.
There's more value in the people, right?
That's right, exactly.
And so for me, Agile is both about doing and being.
Excellent. Okay, Rob, we're on to number 6.
Great.
Start with the leaders, don't start with the teams. And we've seen this time and again where all these executives get highly excited about Agile, and then they look at the training, and all the training programs are all about teams. So they pack up their teams, and they ship them off for training, and then they all come back, and the leaders have no idea what they're talking about. And in fact, the leaders start to resent a lot of the things that the teams say. What we found is a very successful pattern is that the leaders actually start to get the training first, because what's important here is it's the leadership that defines the kind of behaviors that shapes the culture that really allows Agile to thrive. Absolutely.
Ron, this is something, we were talking about this earlier, and I think you nailed it for me when you said, if you want a whole bunch of douchebags working in the organization, then have a douchebag leading the organization, right? Because they're going to mirror the type of organization that they end up with. So if we want an organization that's going to be Agile in mindset, Agile in being, if we want an organization that's going to be delivering on all the promises that this provides, then we need to start with the leadership team. And often I will say, I've noticed in many of our client organizations that what they do is they tell their teams, I want you to think more Agile. I want you to have an Agile mindset. But then what they do is they put in place constraints to make that reality. So they're saying, think different, but behave the same. Right? Behave like me. So what we need to do is we need to start with them, help them understand what this change looks like. Also, in some of our organizations, we've seen the need to train Agile leaders in the use of Agile so that they're half a step ahead of the teams. And really, that's just a change management activity. That's just making sure that the leaders feel comfortable about implementing this Agile thing. And often leaders aren't comfortable with significant change, and especially in the Agile mindset sort of space. So this is more of a change management program as opposed to actually educating them about what are we actually asking our teams to do? What do we want of our cohort? What do we want of our environment? So starting with the leaders means don't just train them. It means educate them. And so with that said, I would say start with the managers because the managers lead the shift.
All right, Rob, we're on to the last one. Key number 7.
Excellent.
All right, here we go. Focus on culture and the people beyond the tactics and strategy. Now, this is something that is a really important goal for me, because a lot of times when I work with my clients and the organizations that we work with at SHIFT, is that a lot of executives are very excited about Agile. They look at the tactics and the strategy of implementing it, but what they're using is the traditional mindset or the executive mindset that used to work in the past to implement that. And what they're missing is the culture, right? Shaping that culture alongside and along with shaping that strategy and the tactics. If you have an employee who's hiding behind strategy and tactics, they're the ones who actually say, well, sorry, Rob, that's not my job. It's not my job description, right? And that is actually a cultural aspect. That's the values that employee actually holds and believes in, and that's how that's what designs their behavior. You can have the same job description, but if you shape the culture differently, then they say, well, you know what, Rob, that's not my job description, but I can't let that client down. So let's get together, get on the phone, and let's figure this stuff out.
Yeah, that's an amazing culture, right? If you've got people who will step up when they need to and will come together when the chips are down. We've been talking about this for a long time at Epic, right? We are a culture-led transformation organization because you can put in place process, but the best you're going to get out of it is somewhere upwards to 30% in process improvement. But if you change the culture, we're talking 10 times, 100 times the potential. All you got to do, and in fact, it's not even about Agile. So if you can change the culture, it's about creating high performance teams and opportunities for teams to be high performing. Always we say, tackle the people, tackle the culture, lead through the leaders, and help them to create the environment for success, and then mirror the culture that they want to instill in the organization. And ultimately, if you're not going to manage that culture, if you're not going to tackle that culture question up front, then culture's going to tackle you.
Well, Rob, that's it. The 7 keys, your Agile transformation keys.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing them with us. Just a quick question before we go. Where did you find the 7 keys? Is this something that you've come up with yourselves, or is this something that you've gathered from industry?
Yeah, we gathered. Because there's a lot of organizations that we've worked with that are really doing the one side of the key and not the other side, and vice versa. There's a lot of organizations that are actually getting this thing right, and they're figuring out the path. And what these things are, an extraction of the patterns of those that get it right. But we also work with a lot of organizations that are getting it wrong. And what we've discovered is they've matched them up. So that's why our 7 keys are structured in do this, not do that.
Yeah, it's perfect. What I've found as well in the industry is that there's plenty of examples out there of organizations that are almost the bastions, the golden light that you could look at to find some of these 7 keys. They're not necessarily getting all 7 of them, but they're getting some real headway in their transformational space because they're taking care of more than, let's say, half of them. So it's good. It's good to see it's not all doom and gloom.
No, it isn't. And one thing too we noticed is that executives can get really excited about these 7 keys and tackle all 7 at the same time. But even if you just do 2 or 3 or 4, the massive shift and benefit that you have in the organization. So you don't have to do it all. Consider it a buffet, for example. Go grab a little bit, come back for more.
Well, one of your earlier keys was, look for small iterative improvements day to day. Just take on one of those 7 keys.
That's right.
You might end up with
one at a time.
With something good.
Well, thank you for your time, Rob.
Thank you very much, Ron. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.